All right, everyone, get ready for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're tackling a truly baffling case, the disappearance of Joniah Walker.
Oh, absolutely. A case that just grabs you and doesn't let go, does it?
It really doesn't. She was only 15 when she vanished from her home in Milwaukee, June 23rd, 2022. And at first glance, it seems like your typical missing person case. A young girl gone missing. Tragic.
Yeah.
But the deeper you dig into Joniah's life, especially what we know about her online presence, well, it's just full of these contradictions, isn't it?
It really is. You almost get the sense of, two different Joniahs, almost like she was living a double life.
A double life. That's a great way to put it.
On the one hand, you have, the loving daughter, baking with her mom, watching TV, even taking care of her mom when she was sick with COVID. Seems like a pretty normal family life, right?
Totally.
But then there's this whole other side, this hidden world that she kept very much to herself.
Exactly. And we've got, access to some of her diary entries, her school records, and even bits and pieces of her online activity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at all that, what jumps out at you?
Well, one thing that's pretty clear, Joniah was a bright girl, no doubt about that. But she was also dealing with some pretty heavy stuff, depression, PTSD, and she had a real deep mistrust of strangers. And, when you combine that with just the normal awkwardness and anxieties of being a teenager.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for people, especially young people, to turn to the internet, right?
Yeah.
To find connection, to find a sense of belonging.
Makes sense.
And that seems to be exactly what was happening with Joniah.
But her online activity wasn't all just harmless chatting with friends, was it?
No, definitely not.
No, our sources paint a pretty disturbing picture. Using apps that her parents had forbidden, accessing adult content. Even talking to much older men online.
Yeah, and it seems like she was really careful about keeping this whole part of her life a secret. Like, there's one diary entry where she writes, quote, "I am glad my dad didn't open my iPad because he would know all my secrets." End quote.
It's scary to think, like that same intelligence that could have helped her thrive could have led her to create this whole hidden world.
Right.
It makes you wonder, what was she looking for in these online interactions that she couldn't find in her offline life?
Yeah, that's a big question, isn't it? And, sadly, one thing we know is that these online spaces, they attract predators. People looking to take advantage of young people, especially those who might be vulnerable.
Right.
And they can be very good at what they do, They present themselves as a friend, as a confidant, sometimes even as a romantic interest.
Right.
And they slowly manipulate these young people into situations where they become victims.
Right. And there were definitely red flags in Joniah's case, weren't there? Like, weeks before she disappeared, she asks her mother, out of the blue, how she would feel if she never saw her again.
Yeah, that's a chilling detail for sure. Teenagers don't just say things like that lightly. So what does it mean? Was it a cry for help? Was it a sign that maybe she was already planning something?
Right. Or was it, she was feeling trapped and saw running away as the only option, the only way out? We know she was facing challenges, her mental health, and then these risky relationships she had online.
Absolutely.
And then we also have this Zach connection that keeps popping up.
Right.
There's a man with a reddish beard named Zach, who Joniah seemed to be fixated on.
Yeah.
There's an unsent letter from 2018. Mentions of him in her diary, Snapchat messages. So is it possible, could this Zach be the key to unlocking this whole mystery?
It's tempting to want to zero in on one person like that, right? Especially with all his details. But we got to be careful about jumping to conclusions. Remember, Joniah was talking to multiple adult men online. So focusing on one person could actually lead us down the wrong path. And we could miss other important clues.
Okay, so let's retrace her steps. June 23rd, 2022. It's around 2:30 in the afternoon. A neighbor's Ring camera catches her leaving her house. She's wearing her brother's clothes. She's got this big backpack with her. So what does that tell us? Was she running away? Or was something more sinister at play?
Well, the way she left is definitely strange, but what's even more telling are the things she did before she left.
Right.
Okay, so she logs out of Facebook. She deactivates all the Find My functions on her devices. She even deletes data. Those aren't the actions of someone who's just popping out for a bit, are they?
No, it's like she was following some checklist, some guide to disappearing.
Exactly. And to me, that level of planning, that That screams premeditation.
Right. Someone who is intentionally trying to cover their tracks.
Exactly. And so that, of course, leads to even more questions. Was she running from something? Was she going to meet someone? Or was she being coerced somehow?
And then there's this whole bizarre digital trail that she leaves behind after she vanishes. This is where it gets really wild, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's almost as if she wanted to be found, but only on her own terms.
Right.
So we've got these strange phone calls, emails that pop up after she's gone. Like her therapist gets a call and a message from Joniah's phone, but it's not clear who actually made them.
So someone's trying to make it seem like she's still out there, but at the same time, they're muddying the waters.
Right. But then there's more. Anonymous emails, and they're sent from, get this, from some kind of encryption-focused service.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a voicemail from someone called Flowers, and then, get this, 2 location data points that are sent to Joniah's brother.
Okay.
And a mysterious iCloud note. It's got 2 addresses and 2 phone numbers on it.
So what does it all mean? I mean, was Joniah trying to communicate something? Or was it someone else trying to throw investigators off her trail?
Right. Were these messages for her family or for the police? This is where my head starts to spin, I'll tell you.
Mine too.
So many questions, right? And we have these bits of information, but they don't quite fit together.
Right. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, but some of the pieces are from a different puzzle.
Okay. So let's try to unpack some of these digital breadcrumbs. Let's start with those anonymous emails, the ones from that encryption service. What does that tell us? Was Joniah intentionally trying to be untraceable?
Well, we know that she was technically savvy.
Right.
I mean, she clearly knew her way around technology. And using that kind of encryption service, that suggests a real desire for anonymity.
Right.
To communicate without leaving a trace.
So was it a precaution? Or was it something more, I don't know, more planned, more deliberate?
It's hard to say.
Okay. What about that voicemail from Flowers? Does that give us any clues?
Oh, that's another one that's tough to figure out. I mean, was Flowers a code name? Was it someone Joniah knew, someone she trusted? Or was it just a random name chosen to throw everyone off?
And then you have those location data points that were sent to her brother and that iCloud note with the 2 addresses and phone numbers.
Right. It's like she's leaving a trail, but it's not clear who it's for.
Yeah, why send them at all? It's almost as if she's inviting someone to follow her. But then again, one of those addresses was a dead end.
Right, a dead end.
So was that a mistake?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it deliberate to throw people off her trail?
You see what I mean? So many questions. It's like she wanted to create a map, but she ripped out some of the pages.
It makes this case just incredibly difficult to solve, doesn't it? I mean, you've got these fragments of information, these whispers, really, that hint at a bigger story.
Yeah.
But the complete picture, that remains elusive.
Totally elusive. And that's what makes this case so fascinating and so frustrating, you know?
Yeah.
Like trying to grab smoke. You think you've got it, and then it slips through your fingers.
Absolutely. And at the heart of it all is this young woman who vanished, seemingly into thin air,
right,
leaving behind these digital whispers that both intrigue and torment everyone who's trying to find her.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a real digital maze, isn't it?
It is.
But we got to try to, make sense of these pieces. We got to see if they fit together somehow.
We do.
So going back to that iCloud note, the one with those 2 addresses and phone numbers.
Right.
Now, one of those addresses was a dead end, right?
I don't know where.
But the other one, investigators haven't actually revealed that one publicly.
Interesting.
So that suggests maybe it's a more promising lead. Could be a place that Joniah, hung out at or felt safe.
Okay, so are we thinking that maybe she went there willingly, maybe with someone that she met online? I mean, that would fit with that main theory, right?
Yeah.
The one that says she was groomed and lured away by someone.
It's definitely a possibility, especially when you consider all that secretive online activity and the fact that she was talking to, all these older men.
Right.
And the thing about grooming, it's subtle.
Right.
It's insidious. These predators, they target vulnerable individuals. They build trust. They exploit those insecurities. And it happens over time.
Right.
They might start off with seemingly harmless conversations, and then slowly they introduce, more suggestive content. They push those boundaries a little further each time.
And because it happens so gradually, it can be really hard for the victim to even recognize that they're being manipulated.
Exactly. I mean, they might actually believe that they're in a real relationship with this person.
Right.
And then by the time they realize the danger, they're already emotionally entangled. They feel trapped. And leaving, that can feel impossible, especially if the predator has threatened them or threatened their family or friends.
So Joniah might have felt like she had no choice but to go with this person, even if it meant leaving everything behind. But we also have to consider that, maybe she did choose to disappear.
Right.
I mean, on purpose.
Deliberately.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know that she was doing all those online searches about doomsday prepping and living off the grid. So maybe she was thinking about making a really radical life change.
Yeah, we can't rule that out. Doomsday prepping, for those who aren't familiar, it's basically, it's this whole subculture where people focus on preparing for, like, a societal collapse.
Right.
Or some kind of major catastrophic event. So, they stockpile supplies, they learn survival skills, and often they'll try to find, like, really isolated locations to escape, to basically get away from what they see as, threats.
Right. So could Joniah have been drawn to this whole doomsday prepping thing as a way to deal with, her depression and anxiety?
Maybe.
Maybe she saw disappearing as a way to take control of her life, like, escape all those expectations that people put on her.
It's possible. You can imagine, a young woman struggling with mental health issues, feeling totally overwhelmed by everything. And then she stumbles upon this online community. And this community, it promises safety, it promises self-sufficiency, and it might have felt like a real solution, like, this is how I escape the pain. This is how I build a new life on my own terms.
And her technical skills, they would have definitely helped her if she was planning something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Researching survival techniques, finding remote locations, and even just communicating without being detected. She could have done all of that.
For sure. She had the know-how.
Yeah.
And it would definitely explain those deliberate steps that she took to erase her, digital footprint.
Right.
It's like she wasn't just running from something. She was running towards something, like some vision of a life where she was totally free.
Right. But if that was the case, if that's what she was doing, why leave any trace at all?
Right.
I mean, why the phone calls? Why the emails? Why send those location data points?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, maybe those messages, maybe they were her way of reassuring her family that she was okay. Like a way to say goodbye without actually giving away where she was. Or maybe they were for someone else entirely, like a coded message to a friend that she trusted, or even to the authorities.
So it's almost like she wanted to be found.
Yeah.
But only by certain people.
Right, exactly. And that brings us back to that other possibility, the possibility that she wasn't alone in all of this.
Right.
That maybe someone was helping her, someone who maybe even now is still communicating through those messages.
That would explain why the digital trail is so jumbled, so confusing. Like someone's trying to create chaos on purpose to keep everyone guessing.
Yeah, it's like a game of cat and mouse, with Joniah's fate hanging in the balance.
And all we have are these little pieces of information, these cryptic messages.
Yeah, and we're left to try and decipher them, to put the puzzle together when half the pieces are missing.
And in the middle of it all is this young woman who just vanished.
Yeah.
Leaving behind these digital whispers.
It's a haunting case, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, it shows you the dark side of the internet, all the dangers that are out there, especially for young people.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even the brightest minds,
Right.
even someone like Joniah, they can get caught up in these dangerous webs of deception.
Yeah, and that's why this case still resonates with people. It really highlights those complexities of the digital age. The line between reality and online, it's blurred.
It is. And so we're left with this question.
This big question.
What happened to Joniah Walker? Is she out there, living a new life off the grid? Is she being held against her will? Or did something even worse happen to her?
And maybe the answer, maybe it's hidden somewhere in all that digital data.
Right.
Waiting for someone to find it.
Yeah, it's almost unsettling to think about, isn't it? That the answer to what happened to Joniah, it could be out there somewhere in this digital world, but finding it, like separating those real clues from all the noise on the internet.
Yeah, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, a very, very large haystack.
Yes.
And the investigators on this case, I mean, they have such a tough job. Think about the amount of data they have to go through. Emails, social media posts, chat logs, search histories, location data.
Oh, yeah.
It's a mountain of digital information, and somewhere in that mountain, there might be one tiny little piece of information that could blow this case wide open.
And it's not just the sheer amount of data, is it? It's the complexity of it all. We've talked about the encryption, the anonymous messaging services, and Joniah, I mean, she was smart.
Mm-hmm.
She knew how to use technology. She knew how to cover her tracks, how to make herself invisible online.
Right. And that raises a pretty interesting question. What if Joniah, what if she actually wanted to disappear? I mean, not just from her family and friends, but from everyone. What if this whole digital maze, what if she created it on purpose to throw everyone off her trail?
It's a crazy thought, isn't it? To think that someone so young could plan something so elaborate. But let's say, for argument's sake, that she did do all of this herself. What would her motive be? What was she running from? Or what was she running towards?
Well, we know she was struggling with mental health issues.
Right.
We talked about that. And there was that whole idea of doomsday prepping that seemed to fascinate her, the idea of living off the grid. So maybe she just felt, I don't know, suffocated by the modern world. All the pressures, social media, expectations. Maybe disappearing was her way of, taking back control, starting over, creating a life with her own rules.
It's possible. But wouldn't she have reached out to someone by now? Even anonymously. I mean, her family is desperate for answers. You'd think that she'd want them to at least know that she's okay.
Unless she can't. Unless someone's stopping her.
Oh.
Which brings us back to that possibility of someone else being involved. What if she's being held against her will, kept away from everyone, totally isolated, with someone controlling her every move?
It's a terrifying thought, and it makes those digital breadcrumbs that she left behind all the more, I don't know, disturbing. I mean, are they messages from her? Is she trying to communicate, but she has to be really careful so her captor doesn't find out? Or are they manipulations from someone else, someone who wants to keep her hidden?
Yeah, it's impossible to say for sure without more information.
Right.
But one thing is clear.
Yeah.
Joniah's case. It really shows us just how dangerous the internet can be, how many shadows there are online, how many people are out there looking to take advantage of others, especially young people.
It's a stark reminder that the internet, it's not all good. I mean, it can be this amazing tool for connecting with people, for sharing information, but it can also be a weapon in the wrong hands.
Absolutely. And so this brings us to a really important point. What can we do? What can we do to protect ourselves and our kids from these online dangers?
Education's a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
Teaching kids about online privacy, about, how to spot those red flags, how to report anything that seems suspicious.
Absolutely. It's about, giving them those skills, those critical thinking skills, to question people's motives, to be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's not, and to understand that, online, not everyone is who they say they are.
Right. And I think, as parents, as caregivers, we have to have those open conversations with our kids. We have to, create that safe space where they feel like they can come to us with their concerns without being judged.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important, building that trust. It's not about, shutting down the internet. It's about making sure that our kids know that, if they see something disturbing online, if something makes them feel uncomfortable, they can talk to us about it. We'll listen and we'll help them figure out what to do.
And I think we also have to acknowledge that the tech companies themselves, the social media platforms, they have a role to play here too.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to create safer environments, better safeguards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they need to take action when someone reports abuse.
They got to be held accountable,
right.
For the content they allow on their platforms. And the communities that grow there, I mean, they have a responsibility to protect their users, especially the most vulnerable ones.
Exactly. And Joniah's case, it's a wake-up call, isn't it? It shows us that we can't afford to be naive. We can't just assume that everything online is safe. We all have a part to play in protecting our kids from those dangers that are lurking online.
And maybe by talking about these dangers, by having these difficult conversations, by working together to create a safer online world, maybe we can prevent future tragedies and bring Joniah and other kids like her home.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the disappearance of Joniah Walker, we want to leave you with a message of hope and a call to action. I hope that Joniah will be found safe, that her family will get the answers that they deserve, and a call to action for all of us to be more aware, to be more proactive, and to really do what we can to protect our young people from the dangers that are out there, online and offline.
Remember, even small actions can make a difference. Share Joniah's story. Keep her case in the public eye. And don't ever give up hope that she'll be found. And if you or someone you know is struggling with online harassment or abuse, please reach out for help. There are resources out there. You're not alone.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of a real digital mystery. And may Joniah's story may remind us that even in this vast, sometimes overwhelming online world, hope and humanity, they can prevail.